are you? 3 words. Simple question. So let's say if I were to ask you, who are you? Would you go with the basic name, sex, job title, or even race, religious belief, sexual orientation? Would you pick one of your talents, an achievement, or a medical diagnosis? I wonder how you would go about choosing which pieces of your identity are most defining of who you are and make you mostly you. And are the elements you are choosing permanent, ever-evolving, or adapted, depending on who's asking the question? I remember vividly asking myself that very question as an 8-year-old in my hometown in Morocco. I stumbled upon our family record, and I discovered that I wasn't in it. It took me a few minutes to realize I was an adoptee. And as my heart sunk into my chest and my whole world shook, I instantly asked myself that very question: who am I? See, it's like the story of this woman that we hear that was a devoted mother and no longer knew who she was after she became an empty nester. Or this guy who lost his sense of self after losing his job. I gotta admit to you though, until that very moment, I knew exactly and profoundly who I was. I was a fun-loving, book-reading daddy's girl, and I was mommy's mischievous princess who was always ready to dance, making friends with anyone she encounters, and very eager to learn different languages. But in that specific moment, that knowing dissipated. I remember that my first instinct, as my perfect family portrait went into shatters, to tell myself that it doesn't matter. I love my parents beyond life, and I have a very strong bond with my brothers. I couldn't imagine for a split second that I wasn't my parents' natural child. I didn't know at the time that I was in denial, but I gotta tell you, I embraced it very tightly. When my parents pulled me for the talk to announce the news, to their big surprise, I already knew. But to my big disappointment, they didn't have all the answers to my questions. I wanted to know who were my birth parents, if I had any biological siblings. But most importantly, who do I look like? Most of the time, people struggle with beauty standards and whether they're attractive or not. For us adoptees, it's a different ballgame. Our struggles look like not knowing who you resemble, or your family medical record history, and the list goes on. You see, adoption is this very complex experience that forces you to live between two stories. On one side, you are abandoned, given up on, rejected. But on this other side, you are chosen, accepted, and loved. It's like you are madly in love and grieving at the exact same time. You're living two intense emotional experiences simultaneously. With so many contradicting feelings in adolescence knocking at the door, I started looking for resources to help me navigate my first identity crisis. Not aware that most resources are targeting adoptive parents. For the most part, I shook it off, thinking, I got it. Or so I thought at the time. I was like a fish swimming in an ocean of love and belonging. So to spice things up, I moved to France, in my late teens to pursue higher education. And I was thinking that starting a new chapter in a different country will be all fun, adventure, and happiness. Little did I know that venturing outside of my love bubble will open a door to a whole new set of experiences. Somewhere between failed tests and heartbreak, I started unconsciously questioning my self-worth and very consciously fearing abandonment and rejection. So as an obvious result, I started developing coping mechanisms. I became really good at fitting in and people-pleasing and adjusting to my environment to make everyone comfortable around me. It worked really well for a while. So my next adventure took me to the United States. And you can imagine, as a young adult, there is nothing more promising and inspiring than the American dream. Think about it. If you've lived your whole life trying to figure out who you are, and you get a chance to move to the country where you can be anyone you want to be and where sky's the limit. So without skipping a beat, my heart embarked on this beautiful journey of becoming American. For the first time, I felt like I could be anything I wanted to be. But at the same time, I was still struggling with figuring out the American society and some pieces of my identity. I didn't realize how prevalent and current the racial conversation was in our society. I also did not receive the memo on the misconceptions and negative bias about Islam, and especially Muslim women. Like this bias that Muslim women are not so intelligent, capable, and can't think for themselves. Bear in mind that I am from the country with the oldest university in the world, Al-Qarawiyyin, that was founded by a Muslim woman 12 centuries ago. And to this day, around the world, including the US, there are millions of women who are the living, breathing example that these misconceptions are false. At times, it feels like othering became an epidemic in our culture, as if we all accepted and internalized that there are some pieces of our identities that are divisive, and that it is okay to exclude and mistreat those who are different than us, forgetting that we are incredibly similar in our humanness, in our pursuit of prosperity, love, belonging, and happiness. So as you can imagine, life started poking around, making me feel uncomfortable in my armor. For years, I trained myself on how to fit in, adjust, apologize, and people please. Suddenly, it became hard to do just that. It's like the soul in my body started getting agitated, like it wanted more space to bloom. I was no longer okay with letting myself down to make someone else happy. I no longer wanted to defend, prove, or hide any parts of who I was. So as a good American, I sought retail therapy and actual therapy. I indulged into food. I took breathing and meditation classes. I booked massage and acupuncture appointments. I went from seminar to conference to wellness retreats, chasing how-tos, wisdom, trying to find a breakthrough so I can make sense of my life. Obviously, nobody told me that on the road for a breakthrough, there will be a breakdown. So that ship has sailed. But little by little, pieces of my identity started coming back together. It felt like, you know that feeling when you're looking for your glasses and they're on top of your head? Or you're looking for your phone and it's in your pocket? You got it. That's what I was doing. Isn't it funny and intriguing that as human beings, we are the most advanced and resourceful creation? Yet, anytime you're faced a challenge, we look for solutions outside of ourselves. We're seeking everything externally. We seek approval, chase achievements, recognition, please undeserving people, try to fit in, as if it will make us feel good enough. We numb our feelings and try to fix, beautify, adapt, and change who we are for others, as if our very existence depends on them. Yet, we spend so little time getting to know, accept, and love ourselves for our own sake. So far in my book, life has been a journey of getting to know and loving who I am. Some chapters have been absolutely wonderful, but not all of it has been easy, and some have been incredibly painful. At times, I lost sight or disliked some of my most beautiful traits. I made myself small to accommodate others. I've looked outside myself for what could only be found within, and I've internalized many disappointments and letdowns along the way. I'm still grateful for those experiences because, as excruciating as they were, and as painful it has been processing it all, they brought me in so many valuable gifts. They allowed me to expand my awareness, find my voice, and reconnect with my truer self. They taught me to disregard distractions and embrace the beautiful moments and loving people in my path. They pushed me to trust my inner wisdom and remember that my self-worth is innate. But most importantly, they taught me that I do not negotiate who I am with anyone. I'm the writer of my story, and I'm sticking up for myself, making sure that I'm radiating love inside out. And even if the whole world was to abandon me or let me down, I choose to be on my own team and stick up for myself because I know my truth. I know that I am not a mistake. My life is not accidental. And there is nothing, absolutely nothing, random in it. I also learned a vital lesson. Stories is how we make sense of who we are in our lives. They can verily make us or break us. We think that our circumstances shape our stories. But what if it wasn't so simple? What if the way we narrate the story and how we give meaning to those circumstances is how we end up experiencing our life? What if we have the power to edit, change, rewrite, and provide a different meaning to our story? A meaning that empowers us, a meaning that lifts those who are struggling like us, and tells others that we're all in this life journey together, doing our very best, trying to figure it all out. So let me ask you again, who are you? What is the story you are telling yourself about yourself? Does it make your heart burst into joy? Does it bring you a sense of peace and safety? Or does it make you want to tap into your power, ready to conquer the world? Or does it dim your light, make you feel smaller, insignificant, not, insert adjective, enough? Also, who is the author of your story? Are you in charge, or is it being handed to you by others' actions, opinions, judgments, or even social constructs? Who are the characters you're focusing on? Those who disappointed and let you down, or those who loved and embraced you? What role are you playing in your story? Are you a victim or a victor? You gotta choose. Choose wisely. And as you are writing your story, I wholeheartedly hope that you end up being the hero you're looking for, that you fall madly in love with your character, that you get eager and excited to make your story captivating and vibrant, that you shape your circumstances to serve your purpose. They say that success is a subtractive process. So I hope that you will peacefully leave behind any disempowering narratives that do not serve your purpose nor your story. Befriend contentment and cultivate gratitude. I'll be rooting for you, and I'll be doing the same, sending you love. Thank you.